When I laid the album on the coffee table, Veronica's breath caught in her throat. Her eyes widened as if she'd just seen a ghost. She pressed a hand to her lips and whispered, "Oh my God. How did you get this wedding photo?" I looked her straight in the eye. "From the same place you hid it." That was the moment her face shifted. First confusion, then realization, and finally sheer panic. She understood immediately what the album represented. Proof that the marriage she thought she buried had never actually ended. Proof that the vows she spoke to me were built on sand. I'm 35 male. Veronica is 33. We've been together for 9 years, married for 7. Or at least, that's what I believed until 3 weeks ago. It all began when her mother, Dorothy, asked me for help. Dorothy had recently sold her house after her husband's passing and was moving into a smaller apartment. Veronica was away at a work retreat that weekend, so it was just me helping Dorothy clean out decades of clutter in the attic. Boxes of old Christmas lights, bags of moth-eaten clothes, stacks of brittle newspapers, and tucked away behind all of it, a heavy trunk that hadn't seen daylight in years. Inside, I found something I never expected. A pristine, white leather wedding album edged with gold trim. Naturally, I assumed it was Dorothy's from her own marriage. But when I opened it, the sight nearly knocked the wind out of me. There was Veronica. My Veronica. Dressed in a gown I'd never seen before, bouquet in hand, smiling ear to ear. And beside her was a man I didn't recognize at first, later confirmed to be Garrett. The dates stamped on the photos? 2 years before she and I ever crossed paths. I froze, flipping page after page. This wasn't some staged photo shoot or engagement keepsake. This was the full thing. Church ceremony, family portraits, reception, first dance, champagne toast, honeymoon snapshots from some Caribbean resort. The whole wedding package. Here's the thing. Veronica had mentioned Garrett to me once, way back when we first got serious. She painted him as her immature ex-fiancé, someone she almost married but didn't because they realized they were too young and dumb. That was it. She swore they never went through with the wedding. I had no reason to doubt her, until that album dropped into my hands. My stomach knotted. I needed answers. I tracked Garrett down through social media. He lived a few states over, remarried with kids. I decided to play it casual, messaged him pretending I was digging into family ancestry records. A dumb excuse, but I hoped he'd open up. His reply shattered me. "Oh man, Ronnie and I? Yeah, we got married young. Biggest mistake of my life." She took off one day, just vanished. Left me a note saying she needed to find herself. Never signed the divorce papers. I ended up having to file for abandonment, which meant waiting 5 years before it was dissolved. Honestly, I'm glad I'm past all that. 5 years. My jaw clenched when I read it. Garrett had to wait 5 years. And Veronica and I had our so-called wedding only 4 years after she bailed on him. Which means when she and I exchanged vows, she was still legally tied to another man. When Veronica returned from her trip, I made sure the album was sitting right there on the living room table. She walked in, saw it, and the color drained from her face. She staggered, literally grabbing the doorframe for balance. Her voice cracked as she asked, "Where did you get that?" "From your mother's attic," I told her. "Same place you stashed it away." She tried to brush it off. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what it looks like." I cut her off. "That's you in a wedding dress. With Garrett. That's a wedding album, not engagement pictures. Don't insult me." She stammered. "That was annulled. I told you about it." "No," I said firmly. "You told me you were engaged, not married. Garrett says otherwise. He says you never signed a single paper. He says he had to let the courts dissolve it after 5 years of abandonment. And according to those dates, you were still his wife when you married me." That's when she gasped and blurted out the line I'll never forget. "Oh my God. You talked to him?" "Yeah, I talked to him," I said coldly. "And now I know the truth." The realization hit her hard. I could see it in her eyes, the fear of everything unraveling. She understood that not only was our marriage invalid, but technically, she could be facing bigamy charges. Her hands trembled as she begged. You can't tell anyone about this. Please. We can fix it. We'll get remarried quietly. No one has to know." I stared at her. No one has to know? Veronica, our entire relationship has been a lie. That's when her panic shifted gears into anger. You had no right to go through my mother's things. That was private. I laughed bitterly. Private? Your mother asked me to help her move. And besides, there's no privacy in marriage. Not when it comes to something like this. The hours that followed were absolute hell. She cycled through every manipulation she could think of. First tears, sobbing about being young and scared, claiming she never knew how to confess. Then fury, accusing me of violating her boundaries. Then bargaining, promising we could just sweep it under the rug and renew our vows like nothing happened. Finally she admitted it. The raw truth. She had known all along that the annulment never went through. She was aware she was still legally married when she stood beside me in that church. Her logic? That enough time had passed, Garrett surely must have handled it by then, so it wouldn't matter. That was her excuse. That was her defense for deceiving me for almost a decade. And in that moment, I realized. The marriage I thought I had never even existed, that I confronted her directly. I told her our marriage license wasn't valid, that the taxes we'd filed together for 7 years were fraudulent, and even my insurance that covered her could now be considered fraud. I explained that this wasn't just about us. It could lead to criminal charges. She tried to brush it off, claiming I was overreacting, saying everyone makes mistakes. But this wasn't a mistake. She knowingly committed bigamy, which is a felony in this state. When she tried to walk out, saying she needed space, I told her she could have all the space she wanted, but the wedding album, the proof, was staying with me. That's when her tone changed. Suddenly, I was the villain, Mr. High and Mighty, trying to ruin her life over what she called a technicality. But our marriage being invalid isn't a technicality. I laughed when she claimed she had chosen me. That wasn't romance, that was fraud. The situation spiraled quickly. After our confrontation, Veronica stayed at her sister Mallory's place for a few days. I used that time to protect myself. I didn't go to a divorce attorney, because legally, there was no marriage to dissolve. Instead, I hired a lawyer who, after hearing my story, admitted he'd never dealt with something like this in 30 years of practice. He confirmed my fears. In our state, bigamy is a felony that can carry up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. As the innocent spouse, I could even sue for damages. On top of that, every document we'd signed as a married couple, mortgage, insurance, taxes, was tainted by fraud. While she was gone, her family began reaching out. Her mother, Dorothy, called first. She was crying, swearing she had no idea her daughter never finalized an annulment. And I believe her, Dorothy's a good woman. Then Mallory called, and that's where the entitlement came pouring out. Veronica had already spun the story, telling her family I was being vindictive, threatening to destroy her life over paperwork issues. She painted herself as the victim and me as the cruel husband who couldn't forgive. Mallory actually said, "Can't you just let this go? She loves you. Why does it matter what happened before?" I told her it mattered because I'd been lied to for 7 years, because our marriage was never real, because a crime had been committed. Her response? Calling me a drama queen, and suggesting we just get remarried. As if I'd start over with someone who deceived me for nearly a decade. Then came the texts. Over 200 messages in one night. They swung wildly from declarations of love, to manipulative guilt trips, to outright blame. "You're ruining my life. If you loved me, you'd keep this quiet. My favorite. I gave you the best years of my life, and this is how you repay me." I responded once. "You gave me 7 years of lies. Don't contact me again until lawyers are present." That's when she completely lost it. The next escalation came at work. I'm a project manager at an engineering firm, nothing glamorous but steady. In the middle of a meeting, I got a call from reception. My wife was there with an emergency. Against my better judgment, I went to the lobby. There she was, dressed up in the red dress I'd bought her for what I thought was our 5th anniversary, holding a box of my belongings. Loud enough for everyone to hear, she announced, "We need to talk. You can't just throw away 7 years." I pulled her outside, and that's when she produced a manila envelope. Divorce papers, from Garrett, dated 6 months ago. She waved them like they solved everything. See? We can fix this. We just need to get remarried. We can backdate things. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Backdate? Commit even more fraud? Those papers proved the opposite of what she intended. They showed she had still been legally married to Garrett for 6.5 years of our supposed marriage. She stomped her foot like a child, furious I wouldn't play along. Why are you being so difficult? I'm trying to fix this. I told her you can't fix 7 years of lies with more lies. That's when she changed tactics, demanding a share of the house and alimony. I reminded her that you can't claim spousal rights from a marriage that never legally existed. Her face turned purple with rage. She threatened to smear me, claiming she'd tell everyone I was emotionally abusive, controlling, and isolating. I reminded her I had the album, Garrett's messages, and years of fraudulent documents with her signature. If she wanted to play the victim, I had all the proof to expose her. She threw the box at my feet, called me a monster, and screamed that I was destroying her life over one mistake. A 7-year-long mistake. Then she spat out that she hoped I'd die alone before storming off. Not before keying my car in full view of security cameras, though. Brilliant move. And here's where it gets even more twisted. While digging deeper, I discovered that for the past 3 years, Veronica had been filing her taxes separately, claiming deductions she wasn't entitled to, all without my knowledge. She also used her married status to gain benefits at work, like better insurance rates. The more I uncover, the clearer it becomes. This wasn't one mistake. This was a calculated, years-long deception that I'm only now unraveling. After everything that's happened, it's finally over. Or maybe it was never real to begin with. After the incident in the parking lot, when my car got keyed, I filed a police report. The security footage was crystal clear. It showed Veronica doing it. She was charged with criminal mischief, and honestly, I thought that would be the end of it. But it was just the beginning. My lawyer reached out to the district attorney's office regarding the bigamy issue. I didn't know how seriously they'd take it, but they did. Veronica was officially charged with bigamy, falsifying documents, and insurance fraud. Her parents hired her an attorney, and of course, they tried to negotiate a quiet settlement. They offered to pay me off if I'd refused to cooperate with the prosecution. My lawyer literally laughed during the call. He told them flat out, "Your client committed multiple felonies. My client is the victim. We're not interested in hush money." Then the IRS stepped in after they uncovered years of fraudulent tax returns. Veronica owed nearly $18,000 in back taxes and penalties. Her parents ended up covering that bill to keep her from winding up in federal prison. But the real twist came with Garrett, her actual legal husband. When he discovered what she'd been doing while still legally tied to him, he was furious. He filed a lawsuit for fraud and emotional distress. His lawyer subpoenaed me as a witness. And that's when I found out even more about what she had been up to. After leaving him, Veronica opened credit cards under their joint names, maxed them out, and left them unpaid, destroying Garrett's credit. She also claimed him as a dependent on her taxes the year she left, which gave her a bigger refund. Garrett's lawyer even asked me if I wanted to join the civil suit. I declined. I didn't want to drag it out further. I just wanted closure. Eventually, her criminal case was resolved with a plea deal. Instead of being convicted of bigamy, she pled guilty to attempted bigamy and falsifying documents. Her sentence was 2 years of probation, 200 hours of community service, and $5,000 in fines. On top of that, she was ordered to write apology letters to me, Garrett, and the court. Her apology, to me, was 3 pages of deflection and finger-pointing. She blamed Garrett, claiming he'd been abusive. Though I've seen the police report she filed and later withdrew. She accused me of being controlling, even though she had free access to everything. She said her family pressured her to remarry. Yet they believed she'd been divorced all along. The last paragraph was the most telling. She wrote, "I hope you're happy ruining my life over a piece of paper. I loved you more than anything, and you threw it away for your stupid principles. Enjoy being alone with your righteousness." But I'm not alone. I started therapy to work through the betrayal, and joined a support group for fraud victims. I've even started dating again, being extra careful to make sure no one I meet is secretly married. Honestly, I'm doing better than I thought I'd be. Meanwhile, Veronica lost her job once the fraud charges became public. The last I heard from Dorothy, she's back living with her parents, working in retail, and telling anyone who'll listen that I destroyed her life because I'm bitter. A week ago, Garrett sent me a message. He said, "Thanks for exposing her, man. My wife and I were struggling with trust because of everything Veronica did to me. Watching her finally face consequences gave me closure. You did the right thing." And he's right, I did the right thing. This was never about revenge. It wasn't about being spiteful. It was about refusing to let someone get away with 7 years of lies, deception, and fraud. It was about protecting myself and ensuring she couldn't pull the same thing on someone else. If anyone reading this has ever gone through something similar, here's what I'll say: document everything. Get legal help. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting. Fraud is fraud, whether it comes from a stranger or from someone you trusted with your whole life. And to Veronica, because I know you lurk through your friends' accounts, I didn't destroy your life. You did that yourself when you chose to marry me while still married to another man. All I did was refuse to help you bury the truth. For those asking, yes, this all really happened. Yes, I have the proof. No, I won't share identifying details. And to the people suggesting I should have just worked it out, would you stay with someone who lied to you every single day for 7 years? Who dragged you into fraud without your knowledge? Who vandalized your property and tried to ruin your reputation rather than admit fault? I doubt it. As for the practical side, the house was mine before the marriage, so there was no messy division of assets. Our joint bank account was frozen during the investigation. And once things were settled, the money was split according to what each of us had actually contributed. She got her share, I got mine. Legally, it's a clean break. Emotionally, that's what therapy is for.